And hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. But we are live streaming this all over the place today. We're excited to welcome you guys back to Cyrus Webb Presents Conversations LA. We also are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. So glad you all could be with us. Going to do one more connection here, and we'll get started. If you all are new to us on the Amazon Live side, welcome. Make sure you guys do hit that follow button. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. You will also see the book by my next guest. We're excited to welcome screenwriter and author Rob Edwards to our broadcast today. He's written a book that you guys are going to really love, not only taking you into history, but also showing you the importance of not only knowing history, but being able to see what we can learn from it ourselves as well. The book, I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys here on my screen so you can be able to get it for yourself. If you guys are not joining us on the Amazon Live side here, there you can see it. It's called Defiant, the story of Robert Smalls. It's available right now here on Amazon. So make sure you guys do get your copy. You can click the Kindle edition right now. We have it highlighted for you guys on the Amazon side. For those who are not joining us on Amazon, we have a link that will take you over to be able to get it for yourself. I want to talk to Rob not only about how he found out about Robert Smalls, but also what it's been like for him to share this story with others. If you have any questions or comments for Rob, make sure you guys do be able to put those in the chat as well. Rob, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I love your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Colette, hello to you. Good to be able to see you. Colette says, love this story. I'm so glad. So I have to say, I was saying to Rob, I had never heard of Robert Smalls before our mutual friend, Robert Blake Whitehill. And when I first heard about him, I thought to myself, this is so fascinating. And so now that you're able to be able to share this story in this new book, I think it really is going to introduce him to a larger audience.
Exactly.
What has that been like for you, first of all, to see people's initial response to Robert Smalls?
Oh, man. Well, that's the thing. Is the first time you hear about it, the first question you ask yourself is, why haven't I heard about this before? Mm-hmm. Why has the story been kept from me? Mm-hmm. In fact, I envy your audience that they're about to find out about the most amazing person in Black history. Mm-hmm. That I found out about it when a friend of mine, David Baxter, who works at Legion M, called me. He had this wonderful script by a guy named Robert Whitehill, who's a friend of yours. Mm-hmm. And Robert had told the story, but as I was researching it, I kept thinking, man, there is so much more that needs to be told. And also that I had seen slave narratives told in a certain way over, so much time, the whips and chains of it all. And I wanted to tell, because I'm a Disney guy, mm-hmm. I wanted to tell an inspirational tale, about this guy who was born a slave, figured out how to get free, and then did everything he could, within his powers to realize the blessings that he'd been given as a smart individual.
And I think that is the interesting thing. Colette says, I love history. His escape was so inspiring.
Yes.
Colette, so glad to hear. Colette and I have been friends. Colette, I didn't know you knew about Robert Smalls too. Manswell, hello to you. Good to see you over there joining us from Georgia. I appreciate you. Miss Queenie, hello to you. She says hello there too. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments from Rob, make sure you guys do put those in the chat. We're going to remind you, of course, how you can be able to get the book, but also show you some of the graphics from the story as well. So make sure you guys look forward to that. So Rob, before we get too immersed in Robert Smalls, mm-hmm. I want to go back to your journey. I mentioned that you're a screenwriter as well as an author.
Yes.
What was it about storytelling and stories that initially spoke to you?
Well, I think even when I was a kid, when I was in high school and even before that, mm-hmm. I wasn't the class clown. I was a guy in the back of the room making fun of the class clown. And I just loved telling stories. Mm-hmm. And so I was fairly shy, believe it or not. And I just really loved theater and writing short stories and that kind of thing. And I liked the reactions that I would get from people when I would share their stories. In high school, I had a cartoon series. And so that was kind of fun. I had dreams of being the Black Walt Disney was basically where I started. Yeah. And then after that, through college and coming out here, working on shows like Fresh Prince and Full House and In Living Color, I really, really enjoyed the look, that you get from an audience when they see a show for the first time. In fact, I liked sitting in front of everybody and just turning around and looking back, because those reactions are so wonderful. You always, as you're writing, you kind of anticipate how people are going to react, and then you see people. Princess and the Frog, for example. I love it every time I've seen it, and I've seen it a million times in theaters. I always sneak in. So if you see somebody in the front, looking back at you, that's me. But there's always this moment, and everybody knows the moment, where the room gets really quiet, and then you just hear sniffles, and then you hear like tissues and people blowing their noses and people and it just gets quiet, and you see that the whole room, 550 people, are having the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, there's nothing like that. The explosions of laughter that we get on Fresh Prince and Living Color, and then moments like that where everybody's just having this cathartic experience. And so with a story like Robert Small's, what better skill set to have than to try to bring that kind of storytelling to this kind of narrative.
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts, and shout out to Robert and also Legion M for helping set up this chat with us, because you and I had not known each other before, so I'm glad to be able to have this connection. But I have to say, on another note, and I'm not a cynic by nature by any means. However, I have to ask myself, why isn't something so inspiring?
Yes.
So uplifting, not only by a person of color, but a young person of color. Why wasn't this story told? How much do you feel like this was that's exactly why it wasn't told?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I myself, I share that with you. I'm an optimist. Now, I'm a kid from Detroit. I'm like, I'm all, hey, you can do it. Mm-hmm. But something about this story, how has this story been kept away from us? I got to figure that, I don't know if you're a conspiracy, but Daughters of the American Revolution, whatever, there has been a whitewashing of history, of Black history specifically. You see what's happening in Florida. You see what's happening around the country where just the mention of anything that happened before, Beyonce is just a no-no. It's just taken out. And you see what's happened with the 1619 Project.
Yeah.
That I don't know why that is. Well, I do know. I have some guesses. But this is evidence that it's real, and storytellers like me need to fight against it. We need to tell big, amazing stories about these people in inspirational ways, and we all need to share these stories. That's why it's a graphic novel. You can take it, you can give it to your friends, you can give it to your family. There's already kids around the country reading it. Moms are giving it to their kids, and people are giving it to their friends. And then hopefully, in other forms, it will be something that we can all go and see and witness for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I'll say too, with this story, there are other stories during the Reconstruction period that are if not on par with it, are slightly below it as far as being inspirational and heartwarming. There were tons of millionaires and doctors, lawyers came out of just post-slavery. 2 or 3 years later, bam! All these guys were there. Just makes you think, like, how were these people being held back during slavery?
Yeah. Colette says, so many unsung heroes. Totally agree with you, Colette.
Yes.
Manswell said, my 12-year-old son loves this story. So I'm going to let you guys see. I showed you earlier the listing on Amazon for obvious reason. We're on Amazon, of course. But there are other places that you can be able to find out about the fight. And one of those places is an exclusive first look that was given to Screenwriter. I'm going to let you guys see this now. And we're looking at now some of the graphic novels. So I'm going to have to ask you, Rob, after working on this project, what was it like for you to hold it in your hands the first time?
Oh my goodness! Well, it's just amazing. It's a dream come true. I mean, this has been a great year for me anyway, because there's a there's a Tiana ride at Disneyland, and then this, right? And so it's been a fun year. The cover was done by a guy named Nicholas Draper Ivey, who does the Static Shock cartoons for DC. He's an amazing artist who took right to this. You can see the lion eyes in him, and what he did with the planter and his wife and child, and the child is a big part of the story of why he did this. And then on the next image, you'll see what my this is us talking, but you see the man, you see the look in his eyes. This is this moment, and it's been told in a lot of different ways, where his mother, his slave owner, basically said he's getting out of hand. He's taking his he's becoming a handful, because he basically grew up in the backyard of the slave owners. And there was this day when they took him to the plantation, and the way the story goes is he came back because they couldn't do anything with him. And I took that to mean like, okay, well, there's a couple of different ways that could go. One is that he couldn't do anything, and the other is that he figured it out. He cracked the code and said, look, you cannot punish me, because if you do, I will have scars on my back. I'm going to walk into the big house, and all the kids that I play with all the time, all the slave masters' kids are going to come in. They're going to hug me. I'm going to wince, and I'm going to tell them about you and about this day that we had, and how you, how you whipped me. And they're going to ask who did this, and I'm going to tell them. And good luck finding another job, So right off the bat, from page 4, he is empowering himself in this world. And they basically at that point decide that he's just going to work as what's called a quasi slave, and he will work in town at a hotel. On the next page, this is the horrors of slavery, where his mother is tasked with trying to break it. And this is what she does before she takes him to the plantation. She just figures she would expose him to, what actually happens to slaves that have gone rogue. And excuse me, instead of it breaking him, it just makes him more defiant. It makes him know basically what it is he's fighting against, and how much he does not want to be part of this world. In the next phrase, this is my favorite line, where the whole thing is told as a grandfather telling the story to his grandson. It's Robert Small's last year of his life, a very accurate depiction by the artist. And he is telling the story to his grandson, and he has a spyglass that we're going to see later in the movie, or in the books, where he is looking through at the Union and at the Confederacy. And his grandson asks him about it, and he says, well, that spyglass and I have a lot in common. And he says, oh, did you steal this? And he says my favorite line in it, which is, I stole me. Again, empowering the narrative, and just saying like, look, this was not a story about a guy who ran away. This is a story about a guy who made the world right. The insanity of slavery, he made it make sense. And that's basically what I want to do. Actually bring a new type of storytelling to this type of narrative.
Right. Norma McLaughlin, hello to you. Good to be to you on Facebook. Alice, hello to you. Good to be able to see you as well. Farley Jackson, good to be able to see you as well. For those who are just tuning in, welcome. You all are watching Cyrus Webb Presents. I'm here with screenwriter and author Rob Edwards. We're talking to Rob not only about his own love of storytelling with, of course, screenwriting, but also his new book. You guys were just looking at it there. We're going to go ahead and share it with you guys again so you can take a look. It's available right now on Amazon, and then it's called Defiant, as you guys can see there, the story of Robert Smalls. So you kept using the word empowering, Rob. Yes. I noticed that. So how empowering was this story for you personally?
Oh, my goodness. Well, that was the thing. When my friend David first shared the story with me, I did what a lot of people do, which is I just kind of clicked to another window and then just started Googling and going down the rabbit hole. And I just kept seeing that here was this guy who was born a slave. He saw an opportunity to free himself and took it, mainly because he had feared that his son was going to be sold off. That his wife's owner had actually bought her by a mortgage. And I was like, I didn't know that you could buy slaves with a mortgage. And he was behind on his payments. Mainly we believe because it was, drinking and gambling. He actually went broke a couple of years after the war started. But he would have gained an advantage. Robert had just had a son. He would have gained an advantage had he just taken the son and sold it. And he could have gotten back on track with his payments. Robert didn't want that to happen, and so that's what had to happen at that moment. Mm-hmm. Then after he was free, he started a railroad. He started a newspaper. He started a store, And as I was reading about those, I was like, why did he do that? Well, he started a newspaper because after the war, after slavery was over, everybody wanted to connect with their families. So, so you had all of these people that wanted, it was like, have you seen John? He's tall and handsome and, and good natured. And there were all of these newspapers. They couldn't get all these classified ads into the white newspapers. So he started a newspaper and did it himself. In fact, the slaves couldn't read. So it was, everybody would show up at a church or barn or something. And then whoever could read would read the paper from cover to cover the whole way through. Wow. And I thought, oh my goodness, well, that's, that is empowering. When you think about the things that we say are, oh, I can't do it. It's raining outside. Right. He started the railroad, same reason. Black people couldn't get access to the white railway system. So he just started one for himself. So that we could do it. Store the same way. We couldn't buy things. We were free, but we weren't free. And so we started a store. And so when I look at those things and I think, well, here's a guy who started from the meekest of circumstances and then wound up, running for Congress 5 times. He's the reason why we have public schools. He's the reason why we have Black people in the military. Beyond the taking of the planter itself, he's done all of these things, and here we are. We're like, oh, the internet is down. Life is over. I'm just going to stare at the walls. We cannot. So I have 2 sons, and so I just kept thinking, what would happen? How joyful it would have been to expose my sons to a story like this when they were like 10 or 12 years old. And hopefully what will happen to other people, adults and kids. Right. If they're exposed to the story. So that's when I say inspirational. That's what I mean.
Love that. Felicia says, teach me, but Screenwriter. But she brings up a good point because you and I were talking before we went live here. You actually do teach.
Yes.
Do you teach screenwriting?
I do.
Okay. All right.
I teach at USC and I teach at Syracuse. I teach a summer program.
So what has that been like for you to know that you are empowering the next generation of storytellers?
Well, exactly. Because for me, it was, I'm on a lot of lists as the first Black, blah, 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 and my road, I'm old. So my road was a little bit weird, because, coming into Hollywood in 1985 was kind of strange. There weren't a lot of Black writers at that time. And so I've fortunately been able to break down doors, and I've seen the industry change a lot. It is now a very different world. A kid can just pick up a phone and kind of, go on YouTube and get viral. So it's wonderful, but what's missing is when you can do everything, storytelling is still an art form, still has to be learned, you still have to tell a good story. It doesn't matter how beautiful the images are, you still have to tell a story that with heart and humor that touches people. And that's the thing that I'm trying to pass down. It has to have what I call, the trilogy: heart, head, and heart, head, and hand. I'm sorry. Heart is the thing that you bring to yourself. That's you yourself telling this very personal story.
Right.
Head is the idea. It's this, it's how is it, how are you innovating the form? And then hand is the craftsmanship that you put into it. So you can teach the hand, you can teach craftsmanship. This comes before that. You can teach, you can encourage head. You can say, okay, well, you're writing a princess movie. What's different about it? How are you innovating the princess narrative? Heart has to come from you. And that's what's the toughest. People have to really have, like, what do you want to say to the world? What do you want to share? What makes you cry that you think might make other people cry? Those kinds of things. And that's what's fun about teaching. But yeah, if you find me, I'll hook you up.
All right. Angela said, and that's why my son and I read and read. Very good motivation. Colette says, so true. And there's Robert's on here. Hey, Robert. Robert says,
Hey.
I'm sure your ears were burning, Robert. We were talking about you earlier.
Yep.
The 3 H's. Excellent.
You got your shout out. You missed your shout out.
Felicia says, heart, head, and hand. Love this. Encourage and educate the people. Colette says, fellow Detroiter here.
Yay. 7 in Woodward.
So I do want to ask you as we talk about
Go Lions.
About yeah, hey, look, that's a great connection to Robert too, right? So as we're talking about Defiant, though, Rob, and now that the project is out, it's out. What is your hope for this project? What do you hope this book does? Do you see it as part of a movement?
Yes. Well, in telling it, what I love is that the comic books themselves are working really well.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be 4 that will make up the first graphic novel.
Okay.
And that'll be available later this year as a complete thing. We're already getting shout outs from schools. So we're hoping that it'll be in schools as part of the curriculum. If it's not, I think kids can just walk in and, as they're buying a Spider-Man comic, they'll roll over and get a Robert Smalls story too. Yeah. So hopefully that will help, because people will be able to share the story very easily, and a well-told story that's really beautiful. The artists that are working on it are amazing. Ray Anthony Height, who does Black Panther, is fantastic. Kendra White is an amazing artist who was doing the interiors for us. Everywhere we go, just the best of Black comic book artists are doing works on this. So it will be fun to read, fun to look at. Beyond that, we're hoping to announce at Comic-Con this year, San Diego Comic-Con, we're hoping to announce a couple of other pieces that are coming together. And that will take it the next step, to a bigger format. Beyond that, I am loving the stories that I'm hearing. There's too many to put into the book. Sure. So I think I'm going to write a novelization after this. And maybe we'll have another conversation when that comes out. But I think there's just a wealth of information with this era that is just aching to be shared.
Colette has a question. I'm sure other people are wondering too. I'm sure you see it there. Will there be an animated movie?
Aha! Well, this one, it would be fun to do as an animated movie. I'll tell you, I see this as a live action movie. Mm-hmm. So I write both. So we will see. I think it's a very it's a great question, because I don't want to abstract it too much. That's my thing about it. I want people to see real people doing real things. Will there be an animated version of it at some point? I'd be thrilled to do it. But for now, I keep seeing it as a live action movie. Great question.
Got you. Colette says, me too. We need our heroes.
Yes.
Mansell said, just got my nephew the Kindle version. Thank you for that.
Oh, nice.
And I want to thank you guys. Since we've been on, we've become a top 100 bestseller on Amazon. So thank you so much, guys, for supporting the project. Keep doing it. You guys can go ahead and push it to number 1. I think, as I just got the alert when I looked at it, I think it was number 57, Rob?
Yeah, right.
51. So 51 under historical fiction graphic novels, 70 under military graphic novels, 308 for historical biographical fiction graphic novels. So you guys keep it up.
Thanks, everybody.
Keep supporting the project. The link, as I mentioned, for those not joining us on Amazon, you guys on Amazon, of course, you can just click it to be able to one-click it there. For those not on Amazon, you guys will see the link that'll bring you over to Amazon, so you can be able to get it for yourself as well. Again, everyone, screenwriter and author Rob Edwards has been our guest today. We've been talking with him about the project. Anissa says, great project, great conversation. Thank you for that, Anissa.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. Colette says, too fascinated to leave, but going to get now.
Oh,
get it, Colette, get it.
Don't take your phone.
There you go. So, Rob, you are also on social media as well. Let our audience know how to stay connected with you.
Oh, yeah. I'm at I am Rob Edwards on just about every platform. Mm-hmm. And I have robedwards.net, which has been down for a little while. It's about to be back up. My son is taking it over. So So yeah, if you're interested in learning about screenwriting, I think that'll be the place where I'm going to put all those resources. Yeah, because I do think that the storyteller's art is something that has to be handed down. It's hard to learn it from a book. It's hard to learn it from anything, but it needs to be out there. So my mom, who was a teacher, she was a chemistry teacher.
Oh, wow.
She always said, learn how to do something well and then teach everybody else how to do it.
Love that.
And so that is part of my me making good on my promise to my mom.
I love that. Well, I want to thank our friend Robert Blake Webhill for introducing me to Legion M, which then set up this chat with us for today. So I definitely look forward to chatting with you again. And make sure you guys are also following Legion M here on Amazon. I'm not on Amazon, on Facebook. Yes. And we do have them tagged over there as well, so you can make sure you're following up with updates there. Rob,
shout out to Paul and the gang at Legion M.
Exactly.
These guys are great.
Thank you. And really appreciate you guys joining us. If you guys came in late, you missed part of the chat with Rob, don't worry. The replay will be available on all the platforms, including here on Amazon, but we will keep it up on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, as well as on Instagram. So make sure you guys do check it out. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb, and thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon here at Conversations LA.